to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good morning, everyone. Just like to remind you to silence your cell phones. Meeting documents are available in the end down there next to Commissioner Karski. And please contact Craig or Carol if you are in need of a listening device. So that takes us to our routine business. I'd consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is to approve the County Commission meeting minutes from September 4th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Then we have a motion to approve the joint City-County Commission minutes from September 5th, 2018.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Bills to be paid in the amount of $4,546,975.29.
Pay the bills.
Second.
Any comments? Commissioner Barth.
Obviously, we didn't meet last week, so the bills are a little higher. It also includes some millions of dollars that is a transfer to the state.
Right, thank you. All right, all in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. There are several reports there for your review from Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office, the Highway Department, construction project update in the Register of Deeds. That takes us to personnel actions. I'd consider a motion to approve the routine personnel actions.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Then we have a special item. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jen Oddix with Human Resources. This morning, we would like to make a request to transfer Ryan McFall from a Deputy State's Attorney position, which is a 22-3, to a paralegal at a 16-3 within the State's Attorney's Office at $21.49 per hour effective September 10th. And this is just a request to transfer him from his current position into the paralegal position. It doesn't involve a request for additional positions or FTEs or any kind of additional funds, and it will help to allow the State's Attorney's Office to manage their workload.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is abatements. There are none. Next are notice and request. First one is a notice and request from the South Dakota Department of Health on a disinternment. Is there anyone who's going to speak on that? If not, then planning and zoning notices. We have the first reading and to authorize the auditor to publish notice of hearing. Kevin, good morning.
Morning, Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. As you stated, this is the first reading for an ordinance amendment number 1802. It's an amendment to amend CAFO regulations within the county. If you remember, about a year ago this time, the County Commission made some major revisions to the CAFO ordinance that involved pretty much every aspect of the CAFO ordinance. Since that time, there's been several applications that have gone through the process of CAFO and permitting process. And there's been some suggestions made in how to kind of streamline the CAFO ordinance and also how to make it more relative to, or related to how operations are actually done. So those changes include changes to the notification requirements, to require certified mail instead of the certified return receipt mail that we have required in the ordinance change. Other changes require landscape requirements for setback reductions. Previously, the requirement required a professional landscape architect to design the shelter belt, but through working with the Minnehaha Conservation District, we have found that they are more suited to design the shelter belts, so we're changing the requirement to allow them to be as part of the designing expertise. And then engineering requirements, changing when engineering is required for buildings to more closely relate to how buildings are required to have engineering for the rest of the county at large for any given situation. So those requirements are listed in the ordinance amendment that have been submitted to you. And this is going to be the first reading. Staff recommends that we publish notice for hearing to be on October 16th, 2018. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Kevin? Commissioner Benega.
Kevin, when was the last time that this was updated and changed before today's conversation?
So it would have been in August of 2017.
So, okay.
It was when the commission voted on the change, and then became effective in September. So it's about a year.
It didn't seem like it was even that long ago.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to publish notice of a hearing on October 16th, 2018 for an ordinance amendment 1802, changes to the CAFO regulations.
I'd make a motion to authorize publication of this amendment,
Second.
1802.
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
There.
Next item is a petition for compromise of lien, and there is none this week. So that brings us to public comment. I know we have at least one person here for public comment today. Representative Clark, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Commissioners, I'm State Representative Michael Clark from District 9, representing Humboldt, Hartford, Crooks, and Northwest Sioux Falls. The governor called a special session on September 12th to deal with 2 issues and 3 bills. The first bill was House Bill 1001, which dealt with a conflict between state law and state constitution regarding the swearing in of state officers. It wasn't a major issue, it was just a quick tweak to the law to allow the swearing in of the state officers on the Saturday before the main run of the session. The second issue was dealing with the remote seller sales tax. And we had 2 bills. First bill was Senate Bill 1, which removed the injunction that prevented the state from collecting remote seller sales tax. With the removal of that injunction, the state will start collecting sales tax starting November 1st from those sellers who meet the criteria, which is 200 separate transactions or $100,000 in sales in the state, for all but 3 companies. And these 3 companies are defendants in the court case. They include Wayfair, Newegg, and Overstock.com. The Department of Revenue will be using the streamlined tax system to ensure that those people outside the city limits are not paying city sales tax as well. The second bill, which was Senate Bill 2, dealt with the marketplace sites. And we're going to ask them to start submitting or collecting and remitting state sales tax starting March 1st of 2019. They requested additional time to map out what products and what sellers they have and what items will actually be taxed coming into the state. At this point, we don't have an idea of how much revenue we will bring it in. This is only the step in a process. Once we have some idea of how much revenue we'll be bringing in, we'll be able to start moving toward reducing the state sales tax. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
Thanks for coming today. We always appreciate it when our legislators come. But the state, again, this year had a surplus of $16 million left over at the end of the fiscal year or whatever. And last year, I believe it was $13 million. Many counties are very stressed on their budgets. Bennett County opted out this year, and it passed by only 1 vote. And that only covers them for the next 5 years. Why doesn't the state help out with these counties that are strapped like that? And what about taking care of the psychiatric facilities and, doing some more for rehabilitation in the penitentiary instead of just holding them until they're released? We've got some money. Let's spend it in a good place.
Madam Chair? Thank you very much for the question. I'll definitely take a look at some of those, as far as helping out the counties and helping out the state's hospitals as well. Now that we do have the extra funds, we should be able to help those other services.
Madam Chair, especially Elizabeth May in Jackson County is very aware of those issues in her area. And, you know, she's not a big spender, and so, you know, if she sees a need, it's a serious issue. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Commissioner Benega.
There was some conversations, even from people who are going around running for campaigns at this point, talking about the fact that they would like to designate some of those additional revenue sources for public safety related topics. Have you heard anything about that at this point?
I have, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you again for the question. I have heard some issues about using those funds toward public safety or for other sources. Back in 2016, when the bill was passed, there was an amendment added that was, once so much money comes in, we'd be able to start reducing the state sales tax. Now, we look again at that amendment, and it looks like we may have to reword that. So that is definitely possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Karski.
Just curious what you just said. You looked at the amendment because it was a reduction in the sales tax for the increase from the internet sales tax. You're looking at amending it. In what way are you looking at amending it, or what's the discussion going on?
The discussion right now is looking at the way it was worded. From when I looked at it, it was said it was for every $20 million of income, we'd be able to reduce the state sales tax by 1/10 of 1%. But if we bring in $50 million, well, then you can reduce the state sales tax by 0.2%, but then you got that other $10 million. And what would happen to that? Would it be saved for the next year, or would it be put into the general fund?
Okay.
And that's part of the discussion, is what happens with the excess.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you again for coming this morning. We appreciate your time. We appreciate all your efforts up in Pierre as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners, and have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Barth?
just a point of order. You know, we've had some late arrivals, and I just wanted to remind people to turn off their cell phones.
Okay, thank you.
John Cunningham, 4904 South Oxbow, Sioux Falls. I'd like to expand on Commissioner Barth's comments that the state is in desperate financial situations. We have, in addition to all the things that he mentioned, a terrible situation with drugs. We need a much more expanded operation to defeat the demand for drugs, the treatment and so forth. We have, for the last several years, numerous nursing homes closed because our Medicare rates are so low. And we're losing places for our elderly people to go. We have enormous needs in the state, and instead of meeting those needs and doing the job that the legislature needs to do, they're going to just cut the sales tax, which isn't really necessary. We're functioning just fine with the sales tax we have. It seems to be avoiding doing their job. So I want to encourage the legislature to do good things for the state of South Dakota instead of just cutting sales tax.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Public comment? I don't see anybody racing to the mic, so we'll move on to regular business. The first item is a public hearing to consider the 2018 annual Burn JAG program spending plan for Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls. Joe Bosman.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Bosman with the Sheriff's Office. Today's date is the time scheduled that we had posted notice for a public hearing to consider if anybody had any comments on the spending plan for the 2018 annual Burn Justice Assistance Grant program that we had set up. What it is it's a federal program that we are in partnership with the city of Sioux Falls with. They receive 65% of the allocation of the award amount, and the county receives 35%. we get this dollar amount, we then tell the federal government what we would like to use the money on, and then eventually the funds would be dispersed to us for those projects. Part of the grant requirements is that we have to have a period of public comment, and so that is today's date.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on behalf of the plan? Anyone opposed? Okay, I don't think we have to take any action today. Are there any questions for Joe from the commission?
Joe, tell me about petroleum shedding uniforms. Is that like if a gasoline bomb was thrown at you?
So that is one of the items that the Sioux Falls Police Department, in part of their mobile field force equipment that they had designated in the program, was a part of the uniforms. And it is something similar to, if you think of it like a Molotov cocktail or some sort of substance that's on fire or could be flammable, comes towards our officers. It's something we want to make sure our officers are safe and that they don't catch on fire in an
Wonderful.
event like that.
Thank you.
Things you have to think of, I tell you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 11, consider a resolution to restore tax deed number 2603 to the former owner of record. Auditor Litz.
Good morning, Commission. Bob Litz from the Auditor's Office. Minnehaha County holds under the tax deed proceedings tax deed number 2603, RDID 63172. At the September 4th, 2018 Commission meeting, the Commission authorized this property to be placed on the 2019 tax deed sale. On the afternoon of September 4th, 2018, the Minnehaha County Treasurer received payment from Alex Mills in the amount of $14,865.77. This represents all taxes, assessments, interest, and costs owing on the tax deed. If the below requested action is approved, then the property will automatically be taken off the 2019 tax deed sale. The action I'm requesting today is to approve the resolution to restore the property to the former owner of record according to SDCL 10-25-41.
Questions for Auditor Litz?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
I think this is great, by the way. But Bob, it has been kind of a bumpy road on this, and maybe this is also for the state's attorney. Is there any reason why apparently the party involved came in and attempted to make a partial payment? Is there any reason why a partial payment, and in this case it was several thousands of dollars, is there any reason why that could not have been accepted? And it certainly could have saved us a huge discussion that we had about when to auction off this property if they demonstrated good faith by coming in and paying off that chunk. Is there a reason we can't accept it?
There's no current provision in state statute for the treasurer to accept partial payments on a delinquent tax bill like this.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Karski?
I don't know if it's as much a question, but basically the people have lived there for the last year tax-free and rent-free.
That's correct. I thought it was smart at that point to give them some time to come up with the money and respond. However, we received none, so this year I took the responses that we talked about last week.
Commissioner Benega?
Well, we've had lots of discussions about this, but one of the things that I was disappointed in learning, and it's not a county issue as much as it is a state issue that I will be pursuing, is the fact that if in fact that property would have been sold for $150,000, which is what it was assessed at, and there was 14,000, we'll round it up, make it $15,000 of tax assessments against it, the net difference between those two processes would have not gone back to the owner. It would have gone to all of the individual tax entities that would have benefited by $135,000. In the meantime, we've evicted someone from their house, which I understand that particular process, but the proceeds of the sale of the process do not seem to be an accurate reflection of what we should be doing as county commissioners and the state in the distribution of those proceeds. So I will tell you that that is going to be something that I've already started the conversations about.
Very good. I'll see how that turns out, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Could make a motion to restore that tax deed 2603 for RDID 63172 to the former owner of record.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any, oh, I think I have to do a roll call vote. I apologize. Olivia?
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item 12, which is to authorize the chair to sign the fiscal year 2019 contract for detox services. I believe we have Elizabeth Brown, the director of detox, here this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Commission. Carrie Benz, Human Services. I'm here with Beth to request a signature, your signature and approval for our agreement that we have with the state. It's a community services contract that allows us to bill the state to receive funds for the services that are rendered through the detox center. And so Beth is with me today so that she can actually address any questions or concerns that you would have in regards to that billing, because Beth is the administrator of detox, and so is the person that administers those funds and does all of the billing for that, so.
Does anyone have any questions for Beth this morning? Have any comments you wanted to make since you're here?
No comments.
All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you both for coming this morning.
I will leave these contracts, by the way, with you, Olivia. Is that okay?
Item 13, consider a resolution of necessity to condemn private real property to complete a highway department project. Donna Kelly from the State's Attorney's Office.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here today on behalf of the State's Attorney's Office seeking a resolution of necessity. The Highway Department has determined that it is necessary to reconstruct, maintain, and repair portions of Highway 122 and Highway 155, including 2 bridges. The Highway Department has also ascertained that in order to complete the project, that it is necessary to condemn private real property. The Highway Department has determined that the funds, $15,000 it is seeking to have allocated for this purpose, are presently available within the department's existing budget, and that no supplemental budgetary request will be required. Today, I am seeking your authority to initiate appropriate condemnation proceedings in order to condemn the property for purposes of the project. Additionally, the Highway Department is seeking $15,000 to be allocated for the purpose of condemning the property.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Donna? If not, I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Well, did we need a motion?
Oh, I guess we do need a motion. Thank
I'll
you.
make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Thank you.
All right. Benega,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Barth,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that takes us to item 14. Consider a motion to award a bid recommendation for project MC 17-15 to replace a bridge structure. Shannon, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shannon Schultz, Assistant County Highway Superintendent. On August 22nd, there are 6 bids received for project number MC 17-15, which is the replacement of structure 50-032-060. It's on a township road. The bidders were able to submit bids for the project either as a precast or a cast-in-place option. The bid summary is as follows. Midwest Contracting, which was precast, is the apparent low bidder at $235,570.75. You can see listed there as 4 other bidders, finishing it off with the highest bid at $479,612.19 from Knowles for a precast option. There were no anomalies by the low bidder. The engineer's estimate was $348,579 for a precast and $327,253.80 for cast in place. You can see in your bid package, or your package, that the certified bid tabulation is attached. We reviewed the bids and we recommend award to Midwest Contracting in the amount of $235,578.75. And we're requesting your approval to proceed.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, third.
Motion and a second. A roll call vote, please.
Karski,
Yes.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Yes.
Bender.
Yes. Thank you. You get to be with us for a while here, Shannon.
So this next item is related to what you just awarded, and that is the construction observation of said project by JSA Engineers and Land Surveyors. And so, again, it's project number MC 17-15, structure 50-032060. And so there, basically, we like to enter into a contract for them to perform construction observation and inspection services in the amount of $39,033. We expect substantial completion will be reached this winter and final grading and seeding to take place in the spring. We don't have a pre-construction meeting yet because the contract hasn't been awarded. But as soon as we do, we'll know a more definitive calendar timeframe by the contractor for completion. Our request is that you approve the professional engineering services contract with JSA.
Any questions?
I do.
Commissioner Karski.
I just noticed on the comments, Shannon, that indicated that JSA had not ever worked with Midwest Contracting. Is
Not
that
so much
unusual?
JSA as us. The county highway department has not. They're a
okay.
new contractor to us, at least in the tenure that I've been here since 2012, as well as DJ. So, not too concerned, you know. We have a relationship with both, a lot of contractors in the area, especially the cast-in-place people and the precast people. And during the bid opening, the precasters were actually there and had, I think, good things to say about the low bidder. So I'm not concerned.
Okay. Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So item 16. Go ahead.
Number 16 on the agenda is a design agreement with Alltag Engineers for 2 culverts to be replaced. These culverts kind of came up during the culvert inspection, and you guys remember 2 interns came here and presented on their culvert inspection for the summer. These are kind of they're red. They're emergencies. There's joint separation in the roadway. It's surprising that the road hasn't deteriorated more than they have already. So these are not something we can wait on. So we're moving forward with immediate replacement. One's located on Highway 159 at Grass Lake and consists of 2 corrugated metal pipes. This location was identified after the shoulder of the road began to collapse. Upon further inspection, 2 pipes were found. One was plugged and the other was partially collapsed. A failure to remedy the situation would result in loss of the road. The second location is Highway 102, 1.25 miles west of the South Dakota 11 intersection, and is a single 36-inch concrete pipe. Road failure at either location earlier this year has made this a priority to be replaced. These culverts were replaced with existing pipe sizes, and design and construction will take place early this winter. Just design, and then both locations will require full closure of the road with formal detours. These locations will have gravel surfacing over the winter, and I guess Alltag's design fee to survey design, hydraulic analysis, plan prep, permitting assistance, and landowner coordination is about $20,214.80. So our request is that you approve our professional services contract with Alltag in that amount.
Are there any questions for Shannon? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Next item, number 17, is very similarly related. These 2 culverts were discovered, again, by our interns and then verified by staff. So our request is approval for professional services agreement with Short Elliott Hendrickson for 2 culvert replacements, both on Highway 110. The first one's located 1.3 miles from the western county line and is an existing 42-inch round concrete culvert. The second one is located 0.7 miles west of I-29 and is an existing 73-inch by 45-inch arch pipe. The primary mode of failure on these both culverts is joint separation under the roadway. These culverts will be properly sized for the 25-year storm event. Designs should be complete this fall for construction in 2019. Both locations will require full closure and formal detour. The total fee for the survey, design, hydraulic modeling, plan prep, permit assistance, and landowner coordination is $26,486. What I'd like to add a little different to this project than the previous project we just discussed is that there's a wetland downstream of one of these culverts, and we have worked with the Corps to basically go inside that wetland and do some channel clearing. And the Corps looks at that as a low impact activity because there's no change in the water budget, there's no change in the footprint of the wetland itself. All we're doing is going in there and reestablishing a channel, and Mother Nature will repopulate that channel with wetland plants just like it is today. But it will allow those culverts to flow a little bit better. And so that's one interesting thing I wanted to mention, and so there's going to be a little bit more work involved both in the design and the construction of that, because we're going to have to get some landowner easements and agreements in place to haul that material out. And preliminarily, we're thinking about a 2-foot deep, 8-foot wide channel inside a wetland. So it's going to be a little bigger project than just a standard culvert replacement.
Any questions, Commissioner Barth?
So is that like under the general permit from the Corps of Engineers on
It's
wetlands?
under a nationwide permit.
Yeah.
So yes, it's nationwide number
Okay.
3, channel maintenance.
So we didn't have to go through the permitting
We
complete?
will go through the permitting process because we are working in the water of the U.S.
Okay.
Commissioner Karski?
Just a quick comment about the interns that you used. Fantastic job that they did in finding these problems and pointing them out. And I mean, obviously, some of these roads could have had some pretty catastrophic failures had we not addressed these issues in a timely manner. So just thanks to them and good work and use of the resources to the Highway Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karski. On that same note, our in-house staff is still working down a list that those interns provided about, basically, we're jetting out a bunch of culverts, about 30 of them, just to see, because they couldn't inspect them because they were plugged. And so that's something that our in-house maintenance has been doing the last couple of weeks and will continue to do for a couple more weeks. So there might be 1 or 2 more of these kind of emergency repair projects coming up, but these definitely have been identified as needs.
Well, I would echo those thanks as well. I hope those young men hear about this, that they really had a significant impact for the benefit of the county. And so they obviously did more than look at really interesting spiders. That's what I remember from them being here. So, all right.
Move approval?
Got a motion? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I think you have one more. No, you have 2 more, Shannon.
Yes. So item 18, this is a briefing memo to the commission regarding the 2019-2023 Transportation and Bridge Improvement Plan. As you know, there is a big fund program out there by the state. BIG stands for Bridge Improvement Grant Fund. To qualify for access to said funds, there's some rules that have been promulgated by the state through administrative rules that we have to conduct a submittal, basically, to the state to meet their requirements. One of those things is to have a public hearing with the townships, and we did that last week. So the other thing is, on page 2, the second page of your packet, is a cover form and certification for the commission to basically certify that we have complied with said requirements, and it's just a requirement that we have you guys sign this and then submit the big fund application. I will note that we are not pursuing any big fund at this time, and that is because our bridges are too healthy. When I say that, what I mean is we will not compete well. There's other counties out there that have many bridges posted at 6 tons, 3 tons maximum GVW. You can remember maybe 2012 and 13 and 14, we got rid of all those structures that were posted that way. So our bridges will not compete, and that's why we're not pursuing any big funds in at least this go around. Well, we are going to submit the application to stay in good faith with the state.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Barth?
You know, there was just an article recently, it was in the Argus Leader, but it was originated somewhere else, talking about how small counties are getting trod on by the big counties on this. And yet, when it comes to these projects, clearly Minnehaha County is a donor to these other places. And in fact, when we had a bridge that was should have been funded, they gave us something big, but it wasn't money. Anyway.
Commissioner Karski?
Important to dot the i's and cross the t's was my comments. So, and from reading the comments of the attendees, and I know there weren't a great number of attendees, but they all were appreciative of the materials and the way the presentation was done. Very comprehensive, so good job.
I will say that it was a beautiful day that day. The farmers weren't interested in coming. The farmers are mostly the township board people. And we do meet with the township board in this room at their semi-annual meetings, and we share the same information. So therefore, I think it's kind of a vote of confidence that they don't show up because they already either understand what's going on or they don't object to what's going on. So we still, by the way, 3 people showed up. Over 150 attendees were invited by mail, and we had a turnout of 3, so.
And we thank those 3 people that came. They sounded very engaged from what I could read in the minutes.
They had our
so-
attention.
Okay, any further questions? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the 2019 to 23 Transportation and Bridge Improvement Plan.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So your last one, item 19.
Well, that one actually is prepared by Melinda and Carol, and I don't have any information on it. I will read what's up there. So, this is a proposed amendment to the 2019 Highway Department 5-year plan. The department would like to request and modify the 2019 project plan and provisional budget. The reason for the request is to design and construct a 0.5-mile stretch of 8-inch concrete pavement near the Del Rapids exit along I-29. Specifically, this request is to increase the 2019 budget as follows. Object code 422045 for architects and engineering for $75,000 additional dollars, as well as object code 436000, which is contract construction in the amount of $625,000.
Okay, any questions?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
You guys are obviously hard at
Thank
work.
you.
It's a busy time.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is to consider a motion to approve and authorize the chair to sign a resolution and stipulation for the burnt quiet title action. Maggie Gillespie.
Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Maggie Gillespie from the State's Attorney's Office. This is a resolution giving authority for the Commission to approve a stipulation. There's a quiet title action pending in Circuit Court naming Minnehaha County as a defendant as a result of a lien for a relief for aid, a county aid lien, which attached to a piece of property, and payment is offered in the form of this stipulation with the full amount of the lien in the amount of $5,226.19. And so the request is that the Commission consider and adopt the resolution to authorize the execution of the stipulation, which would be then signed in Circuit Court, resolving the county's participation in that lawsuit.
Are there any questions?
Would move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Oops, I got a roll call vote again, sorry.
Barth,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski,
Aye.
Bender.
Aye. Thank you. Takes us to item 21. Consider a motion to approve an agreement to purchase real estate. Craig Dewey.
Good morning, Craig Dewey, Commission Office. As you are aware, the jail expansion construction has started. That has taken up more space on the county campus, and the county has become aware that 5 lots that are next to the county campus were made for sale rather by 2 owners, and have negotiated terms for purchase price for all 5 lots between the 2 owners. Would ask that you would approve those purchase agreements that have been negotiated.
Are there any questions for Craig? Commissioner Benega.
I would just make the comment that we don't have many alternatives or opportunities to be able to expand county campus, and this is literally a transfer of assets to be used for future use, from cash to land, and I think this is ensuring, frankly, our ability to do that at a future point.
I would agree. If there aren't any other questions, I'm going to read what might be the longest motion that we've had since I've been on
Madam
the
Chair,
commission.
before you read that long motion, I'll
Okay.
give you a break here. And I just want to say Gerald put his finger exactly on the issue. We are in a tight area downtown here, and when the opportunity comes for us to acquire contiguous anything, we need to seriously look at it. So, good point, Commissioner Benega.
I would agree. We certainly appreciate all the county employees and the other folks who use our campus and the jurors who, come down here and are dealing with tight parking sometimes. And so we're doing what we can to address those issues. And so this is, in my mind, a great opportunity for the county. So I'll go ahead and read the motion. So after I read it, I'll need somebody to make this motion and then to second. So the motion is to authorize the purchase of the following properties according to their negotiated commercial real estate purchase agreements. Property located or legally described as the west half of Lot 18 and Block 2 of West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota, according to the recorded plat thereof, at a total purchase price of $74,728.50 from John H. Meyer. Property legally described as the north 8 feet of Lot 14 and all of Lot 15 in Block 2 of West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota, according to the recorded plat thereof, at a total purchase price of $176,631 with Price Land and Cattle Company, LLC. Property legally described as Lot 16 in Block 2 of West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota, according to the recorded plat thereof, at a total purchase price of $149,457 from John H. Meyer. Property legally described as Lot 17 in Block 2 of West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota, according to the recorded plat thereof, at a total purchase price of $149,457 from John H. Meyer. And property legally described as the east half of Lot 18 in Block 2 of West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota, according to the recorded plat thereof, at a total purchase price of $74,728.50 from John H. Meyer and Patricia A. Meyer.
Take a break.
I would make that motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I need a roll call vote.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Yes.
Aye.
Barth. Bender.
Aye.
Sorry.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item is to consider a motion to authorize the J.E. Dunn Jail Expansion Project Change Order Number 1. And so it begins. Carol Muller.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Office. Yes, before you today is the change order number 1. We know that you don't do any kind of projects without having change orders attached to them. The good news is this change order is actually a decrease in the price. So with that, the 3 things that you have before you today for approval are to change the detention plumbing fixtures from Acorn to Metcraft for a deduct of $168,738. That has been vetted for probably about 2 to 3 months, I believe, out there. We've been having discussions about that, and that is done very much with the blessing of our facility staff, that it will work better for them to have this particular product in place. So that's a good thing to have. We also are going to change the finish on detention furniture to a powder coat finish for a deduct of $25,200. And then the largest deduct is to change the elevator in the addition, which is the new that's going to be built facing 4th Street, in that addition from traction to a holeless elevator for a deduct of $178,940. That is great. We're able to save money on that. In the interest of looking forward, this jail expansion, the new component is being built for future vertical expansion to happen. And the good news about that is that we're setting that up to be successful in that when that probably will happen, instead of having the elevator out of service for 2 months while the vertical expansion occurs, we'll be down to a month. So not only saves money, but sets the county up for some future smart things that may have to happen.
I was hoping somebody was going to ask Carol to explain what a holus, because it was a novel concept to me when it was brought up at the jail meeting, but it is certainly a win-win from the way it was described by the engineers and the contractor. Are there any questions for Carol?
I would move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to the last regular item on the agenda, and it's the briefing on the fiscal year 2019 budget. Carol Muller.
Thank you, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission staff. Yes, next Friday is the last Friday of September, and at that time you will be adopting the fiscal year 19 budget. In the end of June, or end of July, you passed a provisional budget. This is the final budget. You've had a little bit of change in numbers on that because we ran an updated payroll and a couple of other small changes that are out there. So we're just looking if you've got any final directions for us today before the auditor's office prepares the final documentations. They're looking for any last-minute directions, last-minute thoughts, or changes that you may have. We would ask that you did change the 5-year plan for the highway department, so we will go ahead and bring that in based upon the adoption that you just did on that. That does not affect the general funds. That is strictly out of highway funds.
Commissioner Karski.
A couple of weeks ago, I had to think back as to when we had this conversation last about staffing and moving money from the public defender's office to fund some changes. I had conversations with Commissioner Heiberger. I think she may have emailed a few of you. I'm not too sure, but she's definitely advocating for an IT individual for the for the state's attorney's office, and to change a position in the public advocate's office from part-time to full-time. Total budget impact is about $80,000, less than 0.1% of our annual budget. It would not involve reallocating any funds between the departments, but from what I understand, and Kim could fill in the details, we would be able to absorb that in our cash applied. I support that additional person, especially for the state's attorney's office. Having attorneys trying to be IT individuals and all the technology and the things you got to look at when crimes are committed, et cetera, it just makes sense to have the right person doing the right job. I know in my business, if I have an IT problem, fortunately I have a 31-year-old son who works with me who knows a lot about IT, but it's still good use of resources to have the right person doing the right job and to hire that person. So I'm advocating for this change, and just wanted to open that discussion up.
Any thoughts or comments on that? Commissioner, you're both leaning in.
Well, first of all, I agree that the state's attorney's office does work extremely hard, and obviously public safety is getting to be a big issue. One of my come to Jesus discussions a couple of weeks ago after we talked about this budget, I ran into one of the state's attorneys in the restroom actually and asked him how his weekend was when this was the 3-day weekend, and he said, well, it's my usual weekend. I work every Saturday and every holiday to keep up. And that really hit home from the standpoint that that's one of those unfair things that we sometimes don't hear about because of the fact that we're seeing so much increase in crime, specifically felonies. We're trying to streamline the system, and to those individuals who are affected by, quote, the charges that we're bringing and the review of that, it's more than just a financial issue. It's more of a family-related issue. And if you have someone who's doing that just to keep up, I think we need to support that process and support that person. So I will be supporting that.
Commissioner Barth?
Well, thank you, Gerald, and I think Randy Sample would rather be here. But going on to this, I'm obviously going to support it. I suggested this back when we were doing our budget before, but we didn't have the money. And I think that if we had opted out for the $287,000 that I suggested, this wouldn't be as painful. I'm glad that putting the pencil to paper, we were able to scrape out a few extra dollars, but I know that the state's attorney's office could probably use even more help than this, but I'm glad we're able to give him this much help. And the public advocate's office, you know, I think having a full-time person will make it a more attractive job to a higher qualified person. So I wait for someone to make a motion.
Any further comment?
We don't really adopt this until September 25th, correct? So that's a week from today?
Just ask for your direction.
Right.
If you want us to go ahead and do that, because Kim is looking at her workload this week and what she's all going to change, and that can certainly be accomplished.
Okay, so I hear that support and direction to go ahead and change the budget to add a full-time position in the state's attorney's office to do IT work, the position that had been requested by State's Attorney McGowan, and to increase from part-time to full-time the position in the public advocate office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could I just add one thing, please? When we had this conversation originally, I had asked for some additional vehicle support for the building and maintenance staff we have, and we were able to find that line item in this year's budget with savings that were produced by that particular department. So that was withdrawn.
Okay. Anything
Thank you
else?
for that, Gerald.
I'd just like to make the comment that, you know, we had somebody from the legislature here earlier, and, you know, there are very real needs here at the county. And, you know, we don't often hear about, you know, I think the public sometimes likes to think that government workers don't work hard. And that certainly has not been my experience. You know, every entity has high performers and people who are not as dedicated. But I know the folks in both our state's attorneys, all of our attorneys' offices are very dedicated and work hard, and we've struggled to keep them staffed. They have very high turnover because of difficult jobs and our financial constraints. And so I also will support this, and but people need to be aware that next year, unless we are provided additional funding sources, we are likely not to have any option but to look at an opt-out again. And so so you know, these are difficult choices, and they are not going away in the foreseeable future. So okay, thank you. All right, that takes us to liaison reports. Commissioner Barth.
A couple things. One is, as you know, I'm on the planning and zoning, and we had canceled our Tuesday meeting last week, but Lincoln County had a planning and zoning issue that they were meeting on Wednesday. And I went down and observed them taking testimony on a proposed CAFO north of Beersford. They took testimony for 3 hours and then adjourned without taking a vote because one of the members was in the hospital and had to go for therapy, and he had been participating on the phone, and the other 4 did not want to make a decision without the full body being there. Additionally, I guess we in Minnehaha County are having an extra Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on October 1st. Due to our confused issue there with our county and city meeting, a planning item which needed to be done this month needed to be noticed correctly and isn't going to be able to be done until next month. So we're having a special meeting on the October 1st to approve a plan for a planned development plan. If we had not had this special meeting, he would have had to wait till late October to get approval for it and would have missed the potential for construction over the winter. And so Bonnie Duffy, who's the chairperson of our Planning and Zoning Commission, a wonderful citizen for our county, she was able to organize this special session of our Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Any other liaison reports? Well, I just would like to report that, as most all of us know, that there was a fire at the Corrections Center on Sunday. Not something that anybody is looking forward to, but thankfully the jail staff was very well trained to deal with the fire. They did an excellent job of evacuating and accounting for all the inmates there. They've all been transferred downtown. And, you talk about people working hard, county people working hard. Mark Krinz was out there, the warden was out there, Mark's assistant was out there. Carol and Craig came in on Sunday and started looking immediately at insurance issues. And so I just really appreciate the great team effort to address that situation. And, the warden, we met yesterday, and the warden and the sheriff and their staff are putting together a plan to deal with multiple different kinds of contingencies and have, made arrangements to address the situation immediately. We've got the are in contact with the insurance companies and are working through that process. We did have insurance both on the facility and some business interruption insurance, so we'll be looking to see how those different items address some of our needs here. But I just really wanted to thank the jail staff and the rest of the staff here at the county for a job, very well done. The most important thing is everybody was safe at the end of the day. So I kind of ironically, last Tuesday when a lot of us were at the county commission state meeting, one of the sessions that I attended was on law enforcement and the multiple risks that they're constantly balancing, and particularly how difficult it is when a sheriff not only has a sheriff's department to run but has a jail to manage as well. And it was kind of unfortunately a case study on Sunday about how that was all done, and I think we passed honestly with flying colors. So I just want to thank everybody for that. Okay, that takes us to new business. Is there any new business? Warden Gromer, I just got done talking about you. Oh, I just made a few comments about the jail. If you have any other comments you'd like to make, that'd be great.
To bring people in here because you don't have any room over there?
That's an option. I'll consider it. We're obviously, with the correction center currently being unable to be used, it's put us in a little bit of a housing pinch. Right now, we're taking a look at what options we have to rent some beds in other counties where we can get some additional space out of the current jail. The current count today is 422, so we're doing fairly well, all things considered, with the numbers of inmates we have along with the beds. On Sunday night or Sunday evening, during the fire, we were able to get all the inmates moved from the correction center, get them secured in the jail. At that point in time, it was done rather hastily because the option was leaving them sitting in the rec yard at the correction center. So we just kind of put people where we found room. Today, we're kind of trying to get things planned and organized to handle a little bit longer term situation. But so far, it seems to be going fairly well.
Commissioner Barth.
Warden, I sure do appreciate your work there, and I happened to be driving back from a chess tournament and saw the action. Wow. And I guess we've all heard the story before, but just because you have a 400-bed jail doesn't mean that you can only hold, you have to do separation. If Gerald and I are involved in the same crime. We have to be in
Please separate us.
over there. But I think if you could explain to our the people watching why 400 beds means you probably can take 380 on a normal day.
Well, it's primarily due to we have to classify each inmate. Obviously, male inmates and female inmates have to be classified separately. They can't be in the same housing units. But it becomes far more complicated than that when you start to look at the charges, the inmates' behavior problems, medical needs, co-defendants who need to be kept separate. That's why the jail's currently made up of various different sized housing units throughout the facility, so we can classify people and move them around appropriately. This week with our numbers and us being as overcrowded as we are now, that just becomes a little bit more difficult. So what we're trying to do today really is get some longer term plans made, get some longer term housing situations set up so we can accommodate those things within this new structure we're working under. It's gonna take us just a little bit of time trying to figure out where we're gonna put people in different places, whether some of those go to other agencies to stay in their jails, whether we're able to make some accommodations here, whether we're able to change the classifications of some housing units and get that mix of inmates correctly. The reason why it takes so much time is with 420 plus inmates, we have to go through a lot of detail on those inmates to figure out where to put them, where they're gonna sit best, when is their next court appearances, when are some of these folks likely to be released. So we're trying to take all those things into account as we're getting the more permanent or long-term housing situations established.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Barth, I just
You
want
know,
to see if there's
additionally,
anybody else.
Hopefully everybody knows we're building an expansion to our current jail. And this is exactly why when we get that expansion done, it's not going to be 320 additional beds. It's probably going to be more like, what, 250? And
If that,
if
honestly.
that. And so, you know, we will probably be ending our reliance on the CC, whatever we call it, because it was outdated and needed to go away anyway. But just because we're expanding our jail doesn't mean we have that much more room.
The jail expansion is probably more accurately a replacement for that correction center. And it's really twofold with that expansion building. We're replacing the beds that we have out at the correction center, and we're replacing them with beds that are gonna be of more value and more need for us. Over the course of years, and I know we've talked about this before, is the correction center primarily handled work release inmates. And over the years, as programs have been developed, that demand on that work release population has really reduced. It's things like 24/7, our transition to electronic monitoring for work release. Those things have caused a reduction in demand on those work release beds, but our inmate population has stayed basically the same and generally trended higher, just through natural growth. So what we see is we have a need for actual jail cells as opposed to a minimum security work release center. So this expansion project that we're currently working on replaces that correction center and then adds some beds to the jail for continued growth of the community. And once it's completed, it's going to be a far better arrangement than what we're currently working under, obviously with the loss of the correction center. But it's going to work out to be a far better arrangement than what we had even prior to this fire. So it will help us keep the inmates that we need to keep in jail. We can still manage all of our programs out of the expanded facility. So it will be very beneficial. The construction that you referenced is also one of the complicating factors in our current situation with housing inmates. With the addition onto the jail, there is some inmate displacement, which is going to force us to vacate some housing units during phases of the construction. So we've got to kind of take that into account while we're looking for a longer term solution too, which again adds to a little bit of the complexity to the problem.
Any other questions? I think you were walking in just as I was giving my thanks on behalf of all the commission and really all the citizens of the county for a job really well done this weekend. To you and your staff, you guys did a good job of maintaining safety for the folks there, getting everybody out safely and accounted for, and we just really appreciate all the extra hard work that you guys are doing right now to accommodate that.
Well, thank you. The staff at the correction center specifically did a fabulous job of getting the inmates out of the building safely, keeping them secure. The jail staff really stepped up on something that's completely outside of the norm and did a very good job of maintaining the security out at the correction center and getting everybody into the jail. There was other agencies that were truly helpful in this whole process too. The Sioux Falls Police Department stepped up and helped us with our security. They helped us with a lot of the logistics. Fire Department did a very good job. Penitentiary was very helpful in getting us mattresses and blankets and things like that to meet the immediate needs. So there was a lot of agencies that helped out, and it was very beneficial to us. It would have been far more difficult without all that help. So, thank you.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, is there any other new business? Any old business? All right, if not, I take a motion to recess until 10:15 for, when we come back into session. For
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.